So the front of the City Hall hasn't changed at all. It's exactly the same as it was in the 60s, and in 1970 when Queen played it. And that's where the public would have come in through that was the front door then, front entrance. It's not anymore.
Oh, this side?
Yeah. Lads used to come here and they used to play music together, and the members of the reaction met here. So Acker Snell, Jim Craven, who were the two Truro schoolboys, met Graham Hankin and Johnny Gross, who were two boys from Truro Tech, which is the other school in Truro, and they sort of agreed they'd form a band, but they would have discussed the fact they needed a drummer. So and it was Acker and Jim Craven who found Roger when they saw him playing with Beat Unlimited in the City Hall.
There was a fabulous bloke, and the fact that we were, a young band and, up and coming, he thought, and he was very enthusiastic and he was brilliant with us.
Yeah.
And he charged us peanuts, to be honest. And that was the proof that he did, to see if that was the sort of thing. And I said to him, "Can I have that?" And he gave me the proof. So no one's got that.
That is lovely.
And the outcome of that was that photograph.
Yes, so that one has been reproduced before, I think. It's lovely. It's a nice picture, though, isn't it?
Oh, he's good.
So how come there's only...
Incidentally, when I think of it, that particular night, Roger Taylor got voted best musician of the evening.
Did he? That's
yes,
interesting.
He did.
How did that come about then?
And
was that the
singer Johnny got voted best vocalist of the night? It was like something the judges did. They had a proper panel of judges.
Yeah.
I mean, Alan Freeman came down one year.
Yeah.
So it was done on a good scale. All the money, I think, went to charity. It used to be packed. What else was there to do?
Yeah.
You were too young to go in a pub.
Yeah.
So all these people would just, come to something like that. It was wonderful. They'd all be in there doing the hand jive and, brilliant. It was wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
All, nice.
Yeah.
It really was. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Do
you remember any of the other bands then?
Oh my goodness. Well,
the people who won it were we said, didn't we, the individuals?
Oh yes, yeah. Very, very good band.
More professional, a bit older as well.
There was a band from Bodmin called the Druids. I remember him saying that. And we went up to Torquay and we played St David's Hall, Torquay. Never been in a place so big as that in my life. And the singer and I were petrified,
Well, you said he was prone to nerves.
Oh, very much so. And I wasn't a lot better, but not as bad. He would be having this tonic stuff to drink for his throat. Because
it felt dry, did it?
Oh yeah, he used to get in some state. We played St David's with a supporting band, and
can't remember who the main band was then.
Sorry,
we
were.
Oh, okay.
We were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this huge great hall.
Yeah.
And all these people had come to see this rock and roll band from Cornwall. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Roger couldn't have been more than about 15.
Yeah.
And Mike Dudley was the same age as him.
Yeah.
And then there was sort of John and I in the middle of that were our age.
Yeah.
And then there was Acker and Jim Craven, who was just that little bit older than us.
Yeah.
I remember it distinctly. And then we played the Lansdowne Club in Torquay. Incredible place, which I think was run or owned by Lionel Digby. And he picked us up from that after we finished playing, and he had to stop people coming in. It was so packed. Because as I said, the thing was that struck me, it was all either flower power and hippie style, folky, or it was blues, 12-bar blues. That's the sort of bands that were around. And to get, a rock and roll band, as you can see from that photograph I've got, we had orange shirts and black ties, and so we were sort of dressed up a bit and wore the gear. I can remember Roger Taylor sitting down in my mother's front room with the West Britain spread over 2 or 3 cushions with my mother's knitting needles, playing them. I can remember that. I can remember that happening.
That's a nice memory.
And I also remember his first drum kit. Very first drum kit was covered with Woolworths did a sticky back plastic you could stick on your shelves to make it look pretty. And he having quite a you know, black and white pattern of this stuff and covering
You
his
stick it.
old drum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the trouble we're having.
Yeah.
Early Queen. You know, some people say one thing, some people say another.
People get confused, don't they, about
Yeah.
which is mine, which is
Yes,
Queen.
that's
the
what
problem.
we're finding out now.
Not just that, but dates tallying venues.
Yeah. So, let me think. I think if we walk around this little back alley, I can show you the cathedral school quickly, where Roger was. Oh, what I didn't mention is this here was called the Riverside Cafe, and it was probably the place that, you know, if they were going to go, if it was raining and they couldn't sit on the railings outside W.H. Smith's, they'd go here and have a coffee and chat about whatever. Certainly, and Jill Johnson used to come here a lot with Roger.
It's overgrown coffee. Well, with us like, it turned into a coffee bar, didn't it? You know, we'd all go in there and have one cup of coffee and make it lower Coke, make it last all afternoon and discuss, you know.
Jill Johnson. Do you remember Jill Johnson?
Yes.
She lives in California now, but she's emailed me about, and she said that she remembers going there.
Yes, her father was my solicitor at one time. He was the clerk of the. He was the town clerk.
Yes.
Here in Truro.
Yes.
Yeah, Jill.
But she was a folk singer.
Yes,
well, she would have
very
sang
much
at
so.
Dave Dowding's.
Well, yes, her and her sisters.
Mm.
I think it was her sisters, wasn't it?
She had twin sisters.
Yes. Didn't they sing with her?
Yes.
He could sing.
Yeah.
And if he'd had a bit of training, he could have been really big.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
He was another big talent.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he really didn't stick to it. He left the band, you know, because he wanted to see an Elvis Presley film.
Oh yeah, I want to ask you about
That
that.
is true.
Remind
That
me.
is true.
But what's your recollection of that little incident? Because I didn't quite understand it when I read.
We got a booking on the Saturday night. I shan't be there because Elvis Presley film's on wherever, the television or at the cinema. So if you do it, you have to do it without me.
So you did.
So that's what happened. That's why I started singing a bit.
Yeah.
Roger did a bit of singing.
Yeah.
Roger and I did a little bit of harmony together.
Yeah.
I remember doing the Searchers When You Walk in the Room.
Yeah.
Let's go to the hop. 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 Yeah, here we go.
Johnny Quayle. Yes, I came after Johnny Quayle. Where Johnny Quayle went.
Yeah. So it's 1966. So that's the one that you sang in, yeah.
That's right. Price sixpence.
And it was in the City Hall.
City Hall, Truro. Yeah, organised by the Round Table. That was my nickname, Sandy, because I sang with a group called Sandy and the Beach Boys.
Okay.
So they put Sandy.
Yeah.
It's Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
Don't know where he is. And John Snell. He was at Truro. But they all went, and Roger Taylor.
Mm. And quite a few of them were at Truro School. I think that's kind of how they knew
Yes,
each other,
they were all at Truro School.
Mm.
And then there's more.
And that is like the science block. It's still the science block now, but that's where Roger would have done his A-level studies. In that yellow building.
So how many years was he actually here?
All the way through. So 7 years, 8 years actually, because he did
Like
the standard
senior?
7 years and then had an extra year. He
Yeah.
was one of 3 boys who stayed on to do retakes.
Wow. Because he failed his exams.
He did, I think.
Yes,
But you know,
he
he
did.
was playing twice
Yeah, so
twice
too
a
many
week in the
outside
reaction.
influences,
Exactly. He
that's
was
what it
Yeah.
too into
He
his
was
music.
taking the music more serious than the
Yeah, Well, they're borders.
So what do you remember about that concert then? What was the atmosphere like, and what did you play? And
Electric.
yeah.
Yeah.
So was
They
there?
ran it for a few years, you see. The competition,
Yeah.
Rock and Rhythm Championship. But they all had their fans, all the groups, you know, and they come from all over, as you can see in the programme. But
It was very much teenagers, presumably. Was
yes,
it?
yes.
So it was all their friends that were watching, and
the different ones, and
were the audience standing?
no, sitting.
They'd have been sitting.
Sitting.
Were they allowed to dance about
But,
or
jumping
jumping around and yeah? clapping and singing along and
their boards up and good atmosphere.
yeah,
Excellent.
And you've been up on a stage.
Yes, we was up on the stage.
And there are pictures, aren't there?
There are
pictures of that
pictures
performance?
which we will. There's me.
Yep. With some sort of a white blazer or.
No, it was a sheepskin coat with 4 colours, which a company made for us for
Lovely.
the special occasion.
Very warm, I took
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't. So that's me. Jeff Daniels, that one there.
Yep.
Jay Craven, that one there, who looked a bit like John Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Dudley, right there.
Okay.
Jay Snell, right there. And Roger
Rod Taylor at the back.
at the back.
Yeah. And he's got his drum kit.
Yeah, little Roger.
Painted with a target.
Yeah, target.
Is that
That's right.
That was such
and he used to do vocals with myself and quite a good voice because I believe Roger was in the choir, which same with me. I was in St Andrew's Church Choir for lots of years, and oh no, he
so you used to practice in the garage. Did you make a bit of a racket?
Oh yeah, we would. Yeah.
What did the neighbours make of that?
Well, they was quite good actually. But I mean, it was only like a couple of hours, and
you tend to do it after school in the evenings
after school,
often.
Yes, that's right.
But the garage was just through here with a crazy cat, and that is where the radiator was. So somehow he managed to get a full drum kit in here.
Let me get a picture of this because it's, if you don't mind, I think that's quite interesting because it's a single garage. It's not a big garage, is it?
No, it's not a big garage at all. Yeah, you put this cat out. Go on, you go out for half an hour again now.
And you've put a new door on it, have you? Probably.
No, I haven't. So that, I've patched it up about 100 times.
You think that might be an original door
I
there?
think there's a reasonable chance.
Roger came to see me because strangers would get into that state that we've been going quite a long time.
Mm.
You know, people are falling by the wayside.
Mm.
And asked me if I do a weekend at Torquay with them
Mm.
as a standing bass player.
Okay, so that would have been in '66.
Yeah, I should think so.
Yeah,
It was after
because
the
it's just
concert,
fairly soon after the concert.
yeah.
Because that's when the gigs started coming thick and fast. Because presumably the Reaction's name had spread.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a fantastic way of talking to people and dealing with people.
Mm.
And before you know it, you're agreeing to
He's
it.
quite persuasive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he said, look, have a think about it and we'll come back.
Mm.
And they did, they came back. So we rehearsed in Roger's living room at Parkview.
Right, Hurlham Road.
Curtains drawn.
Penrose.
I'm Rick. Hi there, I'm John.
Proper job.
And this little one is
And we had trouble finding. Well, as we were driving down, I said, "Can you remember where it is?"
Yeah.
And you couldn't quite work it out, could you?
I knew it was this side.
Yeah.
Well, I got up a bit higher.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's what throws people is the wall.
The wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying to Rupert last week, about the way of the washing. I was saying to Rupert last week, when you would have been here before, the garden would have been 2-3 times as wide going that way.
Yeah.
But all of that area was only ever rented.
Hello.
Ah.
Wow.
Wow.
Is it anything like you remember?
This is what it's strange what you hold in your mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this is what I always remember. This
Oh,
bit.
right.
And I remember I sat up here, Roger's down there,
Yeah.
and Mike's about here. And it was a sunny afternoon.
Yeah.
And we had to, like I said, we had to make sure we pulled the curtains. And so that's what I always remember, standing this way around.
Yeah.
It's crazy how you just hold an image, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know that I can remember. But he was an absolutely extraordinary drummer.
Mm.
And he also had great stage presence, and he had ideas about how to present a show.
Mm.
which was also very good and refreshing. Whereas at that time, especially down here, it was just a matter of playing. You didn't have to, you know. But Roger did.
He was
looked
into
to that side of it.
the image of the band and all that
Yes.
as well.
Have you heard about the piano, Fred?
Well, yeah, I can't. It's difficult to visualise what
God, that was
it
awful.
involved. But piano frames are bloody heavy, aren't they?
Very heavy, which just sort of really pissed us off because we had to load it in the back of this damn van every night.
And he used to
But
play it
it's-
like a harp or something, did he? Because it's a
Yeah.
bit like a harp, I suppose, isn't
He
it?
played it with sticks,
Okay.
gong ones, you know.
Yeah.
He'd whack 'em with them. There's a Queen single, isn't it? He hits the gong at the end. Is that?
Yeah. Probably is it Bohemian Rhapsodies?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
But I think he got it from this damn piano because we had it carted everywhere, and then we wired it up to the PA.
Well, how did he incorporate it into the songs?
All right, we did it at the end of the show.
Okay,
It's the
sort of
end
finale
with
sort of thing.
Land of
Yeah.
Plays and Dances.
Right.
But it could go on for like 20 minutes or
Okay.
more. Sometimes
That's
half an
interesting.
hour.
So you did that quite a few times
Quite a few times.
until it sort of lost its
I think it was
novelty.
the accident. I think it was in the van with the accident.
Oh, was it?
Wondered
Because
about
that was the beginning of '67, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, that
And
was-
you were in the van at the
I
time.
was in the van,
Mm. And well, it's gone on record, hasn't it? That you were on Gosmore,
That's it.
where there's been so many accidents over the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
But this was nothing to do with the bridge. It was just a
It
lorry.
was a straight bit of road,
Yeah.
but the lorry was sticking out. It had pulled in, but its tail was out onto the road,
Mm.
and he had no lights on at all.
Mhm.
And I think the reflectors were coated in mud, so we didn't see it until it was too late. And we hit it.
And Roger was driving.
Roger was driving. Roger went through the windscreen.
Mm.
The van
Completely?
turned up- yeah.
Well, and landed on the road.
Yeah, he landed on the road. The van
And those were the
turned
days
over.
before safety belts, I suppose.
Yeah. I was sitting, there was a engine cover, metal engine cover. I was sitting there. Valerie was my first wife. But, we weren't married then, but she was sitting on the seat with Hugo Carrier.
And he was the one who was most
Yes, he was
hurt
really-
in the
yeah.
accident.
But Valerie as well, it's the joint in there it was smashed.
Right.
So it just turned over, and like I say, Roger went through, and I think Mike went out the back doors. I think
Right.
so.
Yeah.
And it just slid along the road.
Mike, you're talking about Mike Dudley. There's all sorts of pictures and whatnot in here.
Yes, that's with Blue Hills. That's St Agnes.
That's Blue Hills, Trevellas Port.
Yeah.
Trevellas Port.
Yeah. This is Mike, of course. He's a great long streak of person. And
that's you.
That's me. That's me.
Yeah.
And I can tell you about this Eve.
Go on then, yeah. I spoke to Rick Evans said a bit about it.
Right.
Yeah, what do you remember about it?
We got there. This is a Vox amp there, and there was a problem with the mains lead coming up from the Fox.
You were reliant on the weather being good because if it rained with all that electrical.
It was raining on that occasion because I can remember there was we had this marquee up on the flattest piece of ground we could find. It's all mine rubble down there, really. Not terribly great place to have.
It wasn't actually on the beach. It was more on the.
Well, there was the beach. Really, is just a bit of stony. It's a stony beach there with slopes, so you couldn't put it there, and the tide comes right in. So that would have been scarce. No, it was back on the old mine waste, flattest piece we could find. But I can recall the band playing it with the band. Hardly anyone came to it, frankly. I think we very lost money. The band were all playing at the back, and they were about reaction were about a 5-piece because they had brass, Roger on drums and singing, Mike on bass and lead guitar, and a couple of brass players. So they were quite a big band from that point of view. And we set a little stage up, and because it was very wet, there was a mud puddle in the middle of where we put the marquee, and I can remember a couple of rockers dancing in this mud puddle to the band playing in the background. And this was sort of the image which stays with me, actually, this whole thing. And Roger decided halfway through to go and snog his girlfriend in the back of his Triumph Herald outside. Well, the band kept on playing. So you see, it was rock and roll even in those days.
Fourth one,
Brilliant.
especially I remember.
Okay.
Several reasons really. They had to take the kit across in jeeps, and
Across the beach.
yeah, because it was over by the like.
Yeah.
So,
So like sort of carrying amps and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So we had to load it up in jeeps and then make several
What are you
trips.
with the lifeguards
Yes.
jeeps? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And had sand in the speaker cabinet like for ages after that just blew in. But it was very, very busy, really busy. It was a fantastic night.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people from Manchester, and they were people here at that time were playing pop stuff, so we weren't. And I think that's what appealed to them.
Right, because we
were quite unique in what we played in Cornwall.
Well, you'd gone from being a soul band in the '66 to being much more blues and rock and quite heavy.
Well, we were doing Cream stuff, Hendrix. Yeah, really heavy.
Yeah.
For the other, the Parent Beach one was the most successful actually, because we did it in league with the Surf Life Saving Club.
Yeah.
So they can make a bit of money as well, and they put on a barbecue outside, selling burgers and things to people.
And that was in the sort of middle of the summer, was it?
That was all of these were in the middle of the summer, but the Parent Beach one we packed it out with people. It was very successful.
Well, you get a lot of footfall in Parent
Well, we do, but unfortunately there were complaints locally about it.
About the noise.
The council wouldn't let us do it again, which is a great shame because that could have become a really good regular gig.
Yeah.
Mevagizzy, I think, was pretty reasonable. That was down at the bottom of the hill as you're approaching Mevagizzy on the right in what was the football field in those days. I think they've probably built on it now, but we put a marquee up there. Got permission presumably from the council for that.
Or somebody was ill, or these things happen. So it's like a little community.
Well, they were looking for Queen were looking for a bass player for a while. Would they have asked you? Do you think? Would Roger have considered you?
Roger, when I finished, Roger was going away to London, and his mother said to him, "You're not to go playing, Roger. You go up there,
go there and study." Yeah.
So he said, "Come up with me." But by then I was married and had a mortgage and I had a good job.
Yeah.
And I think in those days, it's different now. I was brought up that you had to have a proper job,
Well, it's the same now, I think.
So I said, no, I really can't do it.
Yeah.
So,
and then Roger, of course, went off to London to college and things, and formed Smile and then Queen.
And did you see?
And then we were planning, I guess, to go up to London or whatever it was later on. We were just keeping going, trying to figure out what to do as people were migrating north.
Okay, so did you get to see Smile very much?
Not very much. I went up and stayed in the Shepherd's Bush apartment a few times, like everybody did. It was always wall-to-wall bodies up there. And yes, I went to a couple of their gigs at the college, so I think I must have only seen them maybe 3 or 4 times up there and then a couple of times down here.
How different was Roger with Smile compared to Reaction?
I don't think Roger personally changed at all, but the music was completely different. The music was really good.
So did you see Queen?
I had seen Queen.
What do you feel about his achievements?
Not surprised, but very proud. It was always, I've always thought Gibbon, he always had that drive. We knew if anybody was going to make it, Roger was. He actually had there was no question that he was going to make it. It was just a question of when and doing what. We always knew it would happen. So.
Did you think he would never become the dentist?
That was really strange. That didn't fit at all. That was just a vehicle to get him up to London. So that wasn't him at all.
Did you ever think back to those days now and with Roger thinking, wow, he became one of the world's biggest drummers?
In terms of wow?
Yeah, in terms of wow, that was my ex-boyfriend. That was, how do you feel about it today?
Just really, proud of him. I mean, that's great. We all grew up together. It was really great down here. We were all together pretty much all the time, I think, was it? We were all together pretty much every day, and then Roger would be over my place, or we'd be over his place, or we'd be at his gig. So for those 3 or 4 years, we were all together all the time, pretty much. And then the fact that he, when that transition to London happened, and then, it's great.
Yeah.
And then when Sue and Pat became, involved in it as well, and then Penny and everybody, it was just very interesting that evolved.
Because they knew it was already had a demolition order on it.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's how they were able to do it at all, and they always knew that their time would be limited. Sort of thing. And actually, they stayed there longer than they imagined. I think when he first set out, he imagined he might only be there for 4 or 5 months, but actually stayed there for more than 2 years in the end.
I think just for us, it's just such an iconic venue. It's like the City Hall.
Yeah.
Where it all began.
Yeah. What was PJ's before you took it over then?
A drill hall. Yeah. Light infantry.
Okay.
Duke of Cornwall Light Infantry drill hall, I think.
So what was it like inside?
A complete mess. It was a building site, virtually.
Yeah.
We'd got hold of I don't know where we got it. And something's been pulled down, some sort of wood panelling, kind of wood panelling, and got hold of a ton of it and made it into quite a nice place. Actually, it was still pretty much a dive. But it was fantastic.
So before it was like just breeze blocks or something, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, exactly.
Yeah,
it was,
okay.
Well, I mean, there's something on the walls, but it was a pretty rough place.
Yeah. And
it didn't get much better, I have to say. It wasn't a plush club by any stretch of the imagination. But
so you think
it
had been built as a drill hall originally? Because PJ's was 2 stories, and the band would play on the upper story, and downstairs there was a cafe. So Queen would sit and have coffee and just chew the cud, presumably during of an afternoon, and that's where people.
69. Yeah.
So that's a July gig.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on record. That's just a random page in the West Britain.
Oh crikey!
That's what it looked like. I mean, they would have come with like a sound man or a driver.
I don't remember much of that in those days. It was pretty much turn up with the kit and unload it yourself and put it.
They would have done it themselves, but they would have hired a band.
They did have in later stages. I remember somebody who turned out to be a manager at one stage, I think.
Okay. But they would have always come down with their own kit probably to perform in PJs.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
you didn't have your own drum. But look what this says. Their last appearance in Cornwall before splitting up. Your final chance to see the incredible smile.
Oh.
And not only does it say that, but it says this concert is in place of Sour Milk Sea, as advertised last week. Sour Milk Sea was Freddie Mercury's band.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know who.
He wanted to buy the club off me.
Oh, okay.
And in the end, he did.
Mm.
It was, buy. Sounds like a multi-million-pound transaction. Something changed hands. I'm not sure what it was. And he took it on, but then it was a very short period of time.
Yeah.
It was always doomed to be demolished anyway.
Mm.
So I don't recall how much he had it for, but or how long he had it for. But that was it. He then joined Queen as a bass player.
Mm.
What did you do, PJs? What was your involvement?
I was just with Peter, giving him a hand. It had a demolition order on it, so didn't have long to go. And when Tim Staffel went back to London, we didn't have a band. There was just Brian and Roger. So Pete sent me home to get my gear out, and I went back down, and so I played the last Smile gig at PJ's.
Which we think is April, don't we? Middle April that was.
Yeah, well, the one that was advertised as the last gig, that was it, yeah.
Your involvement becoming that?
Well, I met them just outside of, I think it was 70 West Cromwell Road, was it? And we were just up the road from there, and we all met, the 4 of us, and that was, I didn't know whether we were called Smile, Queen, or what, and it was not until about, I think it was about 6 weeks later, we were in the garden, and that's when the name was picked. I know we thought it was all a bit risk at the time, especially in 1970, So it was called Queen then.
Because you went to 70 Cornwall Road originally, because that's where Roger's girlfriend was living at the time.
Yeah.
Just kidding, yeah.
Everybody would help each other out.
But you used to travel up to London and stay at Ferry Road, didn't
We
you?
did, yeah. Pat and I would hitchhike from Truro.
Yeah.
But in those days, you could hitchhike and get lifts on lorries, you know. And we hitched quite a bit up to London. Stayed at Ferry Road with everybody else, you know.
And you stayed there around the time that Queen were forming, because you remember
Yeah,
Freddie asked you about...
Yeah, he did. He was seeing us off, actually. We were at a bus stop and going back to get the M4 back to Cornwall. And he said, darlings, you know, I've got this little drawing, what do you think? And I said, oh, it's lovely, Freddie, what is it? You know. And he said, it's a crest. And he said, I want to call the band Queen, what do you think? And I said, it's kind of all right, you know, but you really thought about it. Well, I like it, you know. I said, yeah, I think it's good, it's catchy. What do the others think, you know? And he said, well, I don't know, but we're going to call it Queen. And that was it, you know. Queen, he'd already designed the crest, yeah. He had it all planned.
So, Freddie, he came down here first with Brian and Roger.
Yes.
And I know he stayed with Penny. I believe Freddie stayed with you as well?
Yeah, and we had a big party at our house. My dad was a pianist as well, played sort of honky-tonk, you know. And he and Freddie on the piano, Brian on guitar, all of us singing and dancing. It was great fun, yeah. And there is a story, actually. We'd lost my mum, unfortunately, but Freddie was upstairs, he was staying, and he was upstairs doing his hair, and my father came down. He said, I've bloody seen everything now. He said, he's up there curling his hair. I've seen everything. But he absolutely adored Freddie. He really loved him, yeah.
Did you see him, Sue, in Ibex or Wreckage, Sour Milk Sea?
I saw Wreckage and Sour Milk Sea, yeah.
What did you think of the material the band were asking you to play?
Well, nearly all the first album I played, did the numbers anyway with them, and there was one off the third album.
Wow, that's Go Crazy.
Yeah.
Father to Son as well, you said.
Oh,
which is
yeah,
on
that
the
one,
second
yeah,
album,
yeah.
isn't it?
Brian had a hell of a problem with that. He couldn't get his head around it, how to actually structure it, and he would be changing all the time, and he just couldn't make his mind up, you know, how to finish it.
Which made it hard to perform, I'd imagine, if the arrangement kept changing.
That was, we found it quite difficult when we started, because you're writing your own numbers rather than copying somebody. I mean, when you copy one, it's dead easy, but if you write your own and then you've changed it 5 or 6 times, you can wind up with quite a mess. You know? And we had a few messes. I think even Penny knows that as well.
So do you remember coming back down here to the Queen's first gig at
Yeah, we did.
Oh, the town hall, so...
Yeah. Well, it was called Smile, and I always remember his mother paid us £50 in the Red Cross. It was for the Red Cross, and they made a loss, and I felt pretty awful about it, to be honest with you, when somebody's doing it for charity. But anyway, that was, and there was nobody hardly there, you know, maybe 50 people, you know.
Yeah. This is the gig in the City Hall you're talking about?
Yeah, when it was called Smile, yeah. And I think our first number was Stone Cold Crazy, wasn't it?
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where did you rehearse for the gigs?
We always used to rehearse in Imperial College or out in the garden.
Or in the garden?
Yeah. The Imperial College, there was a lecture theatre, and it was superb for practice then. It was absolutely superb. Just like doing a gig, really. Of course, lovely dead acoustics, and yeah, it was really marvellous. And we used to have a lot of people come around, like agents and things, to see what we were like. And after about the 4th time, I think we lost interest.
Can you remember? Do you remember speaking to Freddie about the gig at City Hall? I think on the phone you told me that
we did. We spoke about it.
He was pretty chuffed about that gig, wasn't he?
Yeah, he said that he felt that there was something there to go forward with.
Yeah.
So I think he definitely knew.
But also he would have been pretty pleased that they'd finally agreed that he could sing with them.
But I just don't think he felt it. I think Brian and Roger felt it as well.
Yeah.
They definitely felt there was something special about Queen.
Yeah.
And as you just said, probably he can sing, he can perform. There was no way Roger would have come down here for a week the year after. 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do these gigs. play that outdoor festival. There's no way Roger had a reputation.
Oh yeah.
The most famous drummer of Cornwall.
Yeah.
So there's no way he would have brought with him a singer to make him look a bit foolish.
Yeah.
So he knew Freddie had it.
Yeah.
But everybody said, anyone you speak to who saw them at the beginning, or even
I seem to remember something where Freddie, Brian, Roger were in the club and we were talking, and Roger used to babysit my kids.
Okay.
For example, Brian used to stay at our house, and we got on very well together, all of us. And the first time meeting Freddie, and there was an occasion, I can picture where we were sitting, and they were saying, we're going to be called Queen. And I remember saying something like, oh, that's really weird. I said, people can say that we're off to see the Queen. They said, no, not the Queen, Queen.
Okay.
And okay.
This was in PJ's, this conversation?
PJ's.
Mm. Did you have a coffee shop?
I have a feeling that Freddie was there when it was Smile, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Because he was there when you had the conversation. All
yes,
three of them.
It's one of the very few that sticks in the mind. And perhaps you know.
But that does.
That does. Brian May was big into astronomy and still is very big. And he made me in a big block of board that thick and put hundreds and hundreds of pins in and traced cotton around the pins and made a whole thing about the planets.
Oh wow.
And it was beautiful. I know.
When did he do that?
When he stayed with us. And that was back in, 69, 70, I guess.
In St Agnes.
From all of them, or was this Freddie's direction?
Freddie wasn't Freddie Mercury that we all know today. He was just the guy that had joined the band, same as everybody else, and he was just part of it. I think probably Brian was the leading light, I think, at that time. He had a very distinctive sound, and he was the Queen sound, really, at that time anyway. And Freddie really evolved. His singing improved unbelievably from when he started. He used to sing a bit flat, I'm afraid, but he did.
Was he really shaky, yeah?
Oh, he was, definitely. Anybody back that time will tell you that. But, he just got better and better and better until he turned into what he did.
I remember talking to him about, and we were talking, and he mentioned these gigs, because he mentioned the Tregear gig, the outdoor festival to me.
Right.
And he said he used these gigs as a learning craft and to build up confidence.
Right.
Well, how much did he lack confidence then on the stage?
Not at all. Christ, he didn't lack confidence in no way. No, he was full of confidence.
Really?
He just didn't have the vocal range, that was all. Like Roger had a phenomenal voice, he could go on forever, but Freddie was just lacking to start, but he trained himself, he just got better and better.
Can you remember the gig at Imperial College you did where record personnel were invited to come down and play?
Yeah, that was on a few occasions that happened,
Did they come to the rehearsal or the gigs?
Yeah. No, it wasn't a gig. We didn't actually do any gigs at Imperial. I've talked to Rupert about this quite a few times because it could have gone either way really. There was scattering of people there, maybe 50, 70 people there, but they weren't official gigs.
So they're like private
invitation
only?
It was like a practice, and then we used that as a presentation as well.
So what about the dress?
Well,
what was the clothes?
We just used to all wear black, that was it.
Just totally black.
Did you go shopping with Freddie?
Yeah.
Tell us
I
about
did, it was fantastic.
What do you remember about that?
Yeah, Freddie used to say, we used to go for a drink then at the King's Road, and he always used to drink vodka and tonic, I think. And anyway, and I used to drink beer, and he said, you'll put on too much weight, mate, you mustn't do it, you've got to get into these new trousers. So we went down and he got me this pair of, and he said, no, have it tighter. And I was coming back, I could hardly move, and I thought, when we got to the tube thing, I just sat down like this, and it just split from one end right around to the other side, and that was it, wide apart. And honestly, Freddie was falling apart on the floor, he really was. And I just laughed as well in the end, and I just walked down, I didn't even cover it up, so, with everything hanging out. So.
What did you think of Freddie as a person?
He was highly strung, but extremely nice. Really nice guy. Yeah, I liked him very much actually. Yeah, you couldn't not like him. You know, I mean, he was a bit eccentric. Yeah, but I mean, you know.
Most geniuses are.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Can you remember when he changed his name to Mercury?
Early on, I think. Balsaro just didn't do it, you know. I think he had to change his name. And very early, I think. I can't remember exactly.
Did he ever discuss it, saying, I don't want to be Balsaro, or...?
No, I mean, he wasn't ashamed of it or anything. It just didn't fit the image. If you knew Freddie in those days, he'd wear satin trousers, you know, skin tight. His hair was always absolutely perfect. He'd wear his little velvet jackets and, you know, mince around. And I don't know, it had to be Mercury, didn't it? It just fitted the whole image. I think he
changed my name. Should it be Mercury?
No, I think he was just a brilliant marketing mind. You know, he just sorted it all out. He knew exactly where he was going. Yeah.
What other reflections have you had on the Queen and why they were successful, as you know, in terms of the music and?
Well, I mentioned earlier about Roger and his dedication. That's the thing that just shines through, and I think it's true of all of them. I mean, Freddie, Brian, was an absolutely stunning musician, and still is, obviously. But I remember looking at, and he showed me his guitar, which he still has, a homemade guitar.
Red Special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember.
So where would he have shown it to you?
In PJs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you have like sat, be sitting in the?
He made this. He said, "Yeah, I did this, I did that," and.
Can we ask the question there, Don?
Sorry, I pick up.
Well, I just wonder where it's nice to visualise that conversation. Would you have been in the office or in the
guitar, by the way?
Yeah, it is. I think.
I think it is. Yeah.
He's made copies for other. You know, he's made copies that you can buy. But
actually survived all that.
But I think it's still. Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah.
But his ability as a guitar player and that with Roger's dedication and his commitment, which puts them poles apart from any other kind of musicians that were around at the time. We all played. We all had good little amateur careers and you know went professional for a very short period of time, but it was all half-hearted in a way that
but I suppose
there weren't many people that stood out as being really, really good. And I'm not just saying it now with hindsight, it really was then.
Yeah, well, it was my age. I was 22. Yeah, I know. I played for 7 years, and I was like doing 2 and 3 nights a week and working all day. So I was really working hard.
Were you married at that point?
No. And I just, when I was up there, I mean, Roger hadn't finished his education, which I mean, you know, fair enough. He had to go on and do that, and so they had their agenda, and I just thought, well, you know, I really did think they were good, mind you. I did like the band.
Did you think they would go on to be what they became?
I thought there was a possibility, because the thing is, they can be like they were, but they could have still failed. You know, I saw so many really fabulous groups that never made it. You know, so I just thought there was a wrong time in life for me. And after 5 years, I remember coming down and seeing Roger in Truro, and just before Bohemian Rhapsody made it big, you know, and they were in a hell of a state financially at the time.
Yeah.
And that's like, I would have been 27 then, you know, so it was just the wrong time for me.
For you to get out at that point.
Sorry?
When you realised they were doing better and they were still broke, did you actually think like it was right for you to get out? Or did you
Yeah, I didn't fit into their lifestyle. They were into academia, you know, and I wasn't. And I left school at 15. I worked hard, and it's totally different. I had 7 years of being, you know, in there, whereas they were just starting. It reminded me when I started playing first off. You know, their enthusiasm was there. It's great, but you know, you've got to take the knocks before you you know, get your spurs. And unfortunately, that did happen. You know. But of course, they were a great band. Joe was great. So yeah.
Do you regret leaving?
I'm just going to say that.
No, not at all.
No.
When I left.
Just a little bit.
No, I don't. Honestly, you know where I live? You don't, right? Well.
You live in Cornwall.
He knows where I live.
You live in a beautiful spot. I can imagine why would you
and
want to live
I've
in
had a good life, you know. So I got nothing to, you know, feel aggrieved about. And best of luck to them as well. You know? Yeah.
So now I got a feeling I was out of PJs then.
Yeah, that's 71.
Yes.
Do you have some sort of link with the Driftwood or St Agnes or?
No, I was. One of my other things, I was booking bands in various venues around the UK. I became a booking agent, if that's right.
Right, yeah. And the Driftwood Spars, I mean, it's not a big pub, is it? But it became
There's a lovely story attached to that pub. They went there, and that was the first time I remember Freddie on stage.
Okay.
Really, they performed a fantastic set. They really were, and the guy who owned Driftwood Spars was called Robin Oxland hyphenate something else. And at the end of the gig, he said, "They're rubbish. I'm not paying them."
Really?
Yeah, I said, "I think you are." And we all got a bit nasty, actually.
Oh,
He
dear.
did in the end. I mean, there's a pittance of that, but
Yeah.
he said that I never had anything so bad in my life. Yeah.
But you remember it being a good. What do you remember being good about it?
It's just fantastic. They were brilliant.
Yeah.
It was the first time I actually seen them as kind of one unit, as opposed
Yeah.
to Freddie perhaps joining in or
Yeah.
new.
Yeah.
That's the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. Because in the beginning, you never heard about this tour.
Yeah.
It was very. We knew they did a handful
Yeah.
of gigs, but it was more than a handful of gigs. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah.
I never knew they played down here.
Imperial,
Yeah.
Marquee, and that's what we heard about.
Yeah.
Just one day I was talking to Freddie about the first tour,
Yeah.
Not the Hoople, and he went, "No, that wasn't our first tour. We did a tour of Cornwall."
Yeah.
And that's when he come up with a couple of, playing RAF. That's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
We went past Caldrose
Yeah.
a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
But it was a Navy base. The Queen played at RAF, Caldrose. No.
There's the
East of Eden and Queen.
yeah. Do you think that's the one you organised?
No.
Because there's another one where they played the City
don't think
Hall as
so,
well.
yeah.
The Queen have played 3 times in the City Hall.
Yeah.
There's that one. That's the one. Maybe that's the one you organised.
That's mine. Yes.
Okay. And then the other gig that you were involved with was the one at Treguy, wasn't it?
Yeah, what we call the Treguy Festival, where we had the Crazy World of Arthur Brown at the top of the bill. We had Hawkwind second down from them. The Duster Bennett band, I don't know whether you remember that. It was a one-piece band. He played everything: harmonica, guitar, drums, all in one fell swoop. I think he had one minor hit back in the 60s. And then a whole list. It was an all-day festival. It started about lunchtime and went on till midnight. And we took over the walled garden at Treguy, which was a country club at the time, and cleared the walled garden. Had a whole bunch of volunteers, friends, and people came in. It was totally overgrown. Cleared it, and we rigged canvas over the whole thing, and built a stage down at the bottom, and got these bands in for this all day. And I know Roger was desperate to play that one, and he pleaded with me to get him on the bill, and he probably wouldn't say this now. I didn't plead with you at all. He did, and we got him on second from the bottom of the bill. Queen were second from the bottom, and I think we probably paid him around 7 and 6pence or something.
Do you remember what Freddie looked like in those concerts? Was he already the Freddie that we came to know later in the 70s, or was he?
Not quite as flamboyant, but he certainly was. He certainly had style. I mean, it was obvious that he. I mean, you see some people, and they're going to make it, but it'll be a plod. But he seemed to be a natural for a man who was relatively shy. But once he got on stage, whoa, it all came out, and I think it certainly showed.
But this has got to be it here.
You're right. Better than when we were here.
Horrible weather. It's got quite a hill, isn't it?
We built the stage down there and covered the whole thing with canvas.
Wow.
It was all overgrown. We had to clear it all.
So people could sit it because it's on a hill.
Sitting on the ground here, looking at the stage down the bottom.
It's perfect, isn't it? A bit steep. And what would you done for power? Just have a lead up from the...
Probably brought it from the house. We might have had a generator, I don't remember. But,
and did you say you covered the whole area with canvas?
The whole thing, we slung poles up and just draped canvas over it. I don't know what would have happened if it rained. It would probably filled with water and fallen in. But
and there's
beautiful weather, though, I remember.
And there's enough space for a few hundred people, I'd have thought. Did you get a good turnout?
A reasonable turnout. I don't think we made much money, but
yeah.
And I remember Arthur Brown was on at the end of the evening, and one of his acts was he crucified himself on a cross. Not really. Tied himself to a cross, and he'd drag it down through the audience, and the roadies were erected on stage, and all through the day roadies kept coming up to me and saying, could you lift the canvas higher there because the cross won't be able to get on. And we kept hauling the canvas up, trying to get it higher. Arthur was on so much medication, illegal I think, throughout the day, that he couldn't even stand up by the time it came to his gig later at night, never mind carry a cross down through the audience. So it was a bit of rock and roll, that was.
This is where the Treguy Festival was.
Oh, you're joking, really?
Yep.
Wow. Good, is it? This is where the festival was,
Big picture for you, Gary.
Oh, it's only small then.
Yeah.
Well, it was completely covered with canvas.
And Queen was second on the bill.
Yeah.
Barracuda.
Really.
Graphite as well, isn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Graphite,
yeah.
So Roger booked this gig in May, and then probably built the rest of the tour around this. Probably thought, if we're going down there in summertime for an outdoor gig, let's extend.
Of course, he would have the contacts anyway.
Exactly, that's what we were saying before. He had the contacts down here, so that tour was probably put together quite easily.
Yeah, very easily. Yeah.
And then it was like, heck, where are we going to stay? We can't dump on Mum for a couple of weeks, which is when they found the place in Devon. Who found the place?
Devon.
Devon. Get it right. Devon.
Well, right, I don't know.
Wow.
Very good.
So can I ask, how did you start the fan club then, and why?
Because they were. That's true. I can't really remember, but we were in the market, working in Kensington Market, and the band were getting quite big, you know, and it was getting to the point where they were actually writing back to fans or having to contact people, and they just said, you know, will you do it? Will you help us out? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we did it from Kensington Market.
Well, from the stall?
Yeah. So as the letters came in, they'd come in and drop them in the stall, and we'd just write to you and you, and just did it all from Kensington Market. Yeah. And then
So
it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
So when did it become a proper
Going up one side of an escalator, he was going up, I was going down, whichever it was, and it was in Kensington Market, and I heard this, Peter, and it was Freddie, and I went,
okay.
how are you? Fine. So we got together and had a coffee or something, because he lived in Kensington Market, he had a stall there.
He did, didn't he? With Roger, I think.
With Roger, I think.
Yeah.
I forgot it was selling antique furniture or something.
Clothes.
Clothes, was it?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's where they got the clothes
but,
from.
It's that kind of memory, I suppose, because Freddie became so famous. But before that, he came across as so friendly and so approachable as a person. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Did your relationship with Roger change as Queen became? You're working for him and Queen are moving up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we all got on really well, and it was. Yeah, I mean, we all did, didn't we? They were just easygoing people. They were great fun to be around, and we all helped each other out. I mean, without Roger, I wouldn't have got, you know, a job in London or even gone to London actually, because it was him that encouraged me to leave Cornwall and go there. So we're always, you know, if we see him now, it's always lovely. It's always really nice to see him. But of course, they got enormously big and so successful. And we left the fan club, but I went to EMI Records. So for years, I carried on working on them anyway. I did all their international marketing. We sang today for the first time as the J-Folk in the car. And it was amazing. It just slotted back in, and it sounded great. I mean, just the whole event today and everything that's going on, it's been lovely. And honestly, without Rupert, I couldn't have remembered any of it. So,
Jog the memory.
There's a big blank. But
are they good memories?
They are, yeah, very nice, very good memories. Yeah. There was one actually where we were here, I think it was this gig, and we all went down and sang in the cave down on the beach there. And Tim was there as well, and we sang Planet Earth in about 6-part harmony, and it was amazing. And it was one of the real tingly moments that I've still got. I think I told you about that. And it really makes me sort of, my hair stand on end. It was fabulous. Yeah.
So did you see the band with all the 3 bass players?
Yeah, probably.
One of the only people
Yeah.
that's done it?
Yes.
Wow.
The other thing you said about that night was that Brian was up on the cliffs here.
Yeah.
So it's,
It was a beautiful night. He identified all the stars in the planets and just named them all. And but apart from doing that, he looked down. I know it was a bit, but it was amazing. And the whole headland was covered in glowworms, which is something I've never seen before or since.
When you say that headland, is it
up there? We went up
that
there.
one, you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was definitely up there. Yeah.
Midnight feast on Headland.
Did you?
What a beautiful,
So,
beautiful place.
So that's the Devon River.
Yeah.
So this is Devon.
Right.
And it goes up the hill basically. And the pub, we can walk around to the pub and we can walk around to the creek there. Did you see the creek? If you look at the
Yeah.
If you look at the this is the sort of, you can see there's this mud and like grasses and stuff that you only sort of get in that kind of saline conditions and so on.
See, this is like, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. It's weird. It's like this back of this album. It's like a jigsaw, and I've got missing pieces, and you have now started to fill those pieces. So
that's
this is
Brian,
becoming,
isn't it?
Yes.
In his
Look at
Jesus.
that. I remember seeing him like that in '77.
Yeah.
When I went down to the office once, and that's what he looked like, Jesus. That's what we think Jesus looks like.
Jesus in clogs.
Yeah, that's it. Jesus in clogs.
He went up to London and met Freddie Mercury.
That helps.
And it's luck.
Yeah.
And being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But he was a good drummer.
Yeah.
And but we've had good drummers in other bands. You know, it's like a horse race. There's only one winner. Isn't that?
Green next to it as well. And the gap in the middle. Yeah, where the trees. Don't forget, 40 years.
Yeah.
Those trees have grown in 40
From
years.
the tree line at the
but
bottom.
now, definite. Green. Maybe this bench.
Well, they were staying in Devon.
Well, they were staying in Devon.
They were here for more than a month. So
But
they
this is
had a lot
what we
of time
can't
on their
find
hands.
out. Who? Fantastic. We're out in a place called Devon, where they stayed. Doing all these gigs in '71. So we're here looking at the back of the first album cover to try and find a field where Freddie had the picture taken. But we're here. We found it. We found it. So we're here now. Yeah. So have you had lunch or anything yet?
Working with him.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, he never had a lesson in his life. But it was just all so natural. It was just everything. I mean, mine are quite loose still now from playing, though I got arthritis in this hand in particular. But yeah.
But if you look very, very carefully, just in there, there's like a little white sort of thing.
There's
it's
a bit of a white building there.
It's that building.
It is.
There.
Absolute fact. You've got it.
It is.
What? Rupert, it is. You know. Look.
You can see
there.
Just see the building.
You can see the white. Just see there. The white building. Yeah. Look. The white building.
Building there.
On the hill.
And utterly dedicated. He
Yeah.
never varied from what he wanted to do,
Yeah.
and that's why he made it in my book.
Yeah.
100% into the business. He was a very, very good drummer and kept on being a good drummer.
Yeah.
People would go off and do things they get.
Above your head, Phil. That's virtually the same. I think it's here.
Yeah,
I think we found it.
That jetty.
Yeah, I think we found it.
When I first met Rog and I played in the reaction with him, he had a plinth that he had his drums on. Most of the drums just stuck it on the floor, and he had this plinth. And
You have to be higher.
yeah, and he had to be the star, and he was star treatment. He was no doubt about it. He had
Even
that.
then?
Yes, he was. And I looked at him and I thought, this guy really wants to be famous, and it just stood out.
And you knew he'd do it.
And he achieved it.
Yeah, he achieved it. Yeah. But I mean, Freddie had the same thing, and Ryan.
Yeah.
They all three did.
Do you want me to do another one? Yeah, go on. I think we're being very silly.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's because you've got Mrs. Stand in the room. Yeah, I feel. Get this camera.
Get his camera in his case.
Yeah.
No, left hand on him.
Is it got his legs in there?
How's he got his legs?
We haven't lost it, honestly.
No, I got.
Just
It's
like
great.
Yeah.
Kind of.
This is funny. This has got to be the stupidest thing I've done in ages. I love it. I never thought we'd see this.
Hang on,
You said you could move.
Yeah, exactly.